So in the second act of Rushin Better Fly, known as Rushin Better Fly, he goes to, or he's told, wait a second, he's told to like basically meet up at like in a, it's kind of like a storage place at DFW airport. It's almost kind of like right next to his car lot. It's really weird. And so I actually really went there. She called me from, not from Minsk, she called me from Moscow and had this long monologue about how she was, it was just really weird. Like she was being like harassed by all these other Russian men at the airport, and that she needed money to get through customs. That was what got me, because the first thing they asked for is they asked for a visa. The second thing they ask for is they ask for, I don't mean like a card, I mean like a passport. Then they ask for a ticket, which usually is about $1,000. So that comes about $1,500. $300 to $500 for the visa, I think it's something, and then about $1,000 for the ticket. And then they ask to get through customs, which is $2,000. A lot of the men were at the airport, DFW airport or other airports, probably DFW was a popular one, waiting with flowers, and they'd never show. Now, she called me early in the morning and was crying. And she said, I'm at the airport. They stopped me with customs and I need $2,000 to get through. Now, whether they trick these women into believing this or not is my kind of assumption. I think they're kind of fooled. And so they really do this stuff. And so customs stops them, and maybe. I still believe it today. I don't know if it was all scam or not. I'm in the middle. Like, I don't know, even today. I'm still fooled. There we go. That looks just like my cat, Romeo, or Tuxedo. So I did the 3 plays in Irving, right over there by the plays. Okay, we did it in a there was a 3-bedroom apartment. There was like an office room. You can see it in the vlog way earlier when I'm doing my top 5 films. That was the office room. That's where I met Daniel Lunt too, to do The Projectionist later, which is a feature. And so it's like a long story. It's so crazy. Yeah, I met Daniel actually on the Richards. No, that's not true. I met him at the play readings. Yeah, he came to do the play readings. And then I met him again on the Richards, because we did it was a showcase, Shakespeare showcase in Dallas about Richard III. We all played different Richards. It was called the Richards. It was mostly for costumes and makeup. It was a showcase. Special effects makeup. Okay, so we're in Irving. I'm in Irving, and Hidden Drive goes first. So in Hidden Drive, there was probably like 20 actors that showed up for that one too. They all did the reading. A lot of them were paid. So I paid what I could. And I paid what I could on Rushin Better Fly, mostly through like PayPal and stuff like that. In-store was about the bank. Didn't pay so much on that one. I was running low on funds by then. I had a little bit of money. Back then, I was doing Uber. Uber was good. You could make $200 a day with Uber back in the day. If you worked it hard and got cash tips and stuff, you could do $200 a day. Okay, so eventually we start off doing Hidden Drive. It's kind of a poetic piece about a guy named Peter Wright and his wife Robin Wright, who has already left him and comes back to Maine to try to get him to come back to Texas to see his daughter named Sky. And he stays to write this book. He's writing a book about Jonah and the whale. He's in a cabin, and a woman visits him, a young woman named Angie Summers. And she's on her way to California, leaving Maine. She's kind of a wanderer. He IDs her and then lets her in. He has this computer program. It's very technical. There's a Google thing. It uses a thing called Google Homebox. And the Google thing goes crazy throughout the play and starts like HAL, you know, HAL 9000 and 2001. It starts kind of like doing its own thing. And he's in a cabin. He's in a rusty cabin with this like Google device that's probably like on demo. You know, it's like a demo device. It's a heuristically algorithmic, you know, just like HAL. It's to figure out stuff for him, but it goes crazy and stuff. And the rock gets thrown through his window. And so it starts letting the cold weather in, because it happens right in the midst of a winter storm There's howling throughout the whole play of these wolves. There's not that many wolves in Maine, but there are some. They're all howling throughout the play. Well, he gets visited by different people from the storm. It's loosely based on an original play I was working on in college called Bad Taxidermy, which is about these ghosts from the Civil War that visit these couple that's in an antique store that has taxidermy everywhere. And they get trapped in because of a blizzard, and these ghosts come and visit them. This one's a little different. It's a cabin, and his name is Peter Wright. He's a wife named Sharon Wright, Angie Summers. Then there is a minister named Jessup Godley. He comes in and he's on a convention, kind of a Baptist convention. He's on like this trek, you know, and he comes to his cabin basically just to pray with him. It's very strange. Then he leaves. I took that a little from Easter, from Strindberg's Easter, the dream play. Well, Easter's kind of a dream play. I took it a little bit from August Strindberg. That one's that one, and then In Story you'd have to read. That one's only Act 1 is posted on this channel. In Store is the third play. So the only samples that you get from the 3 plays, I call them the plays of summer, you know, of 1999. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 2019. I was way off. Let's see, 99. I was 20 years off. I've been writing plays since early 90s. But the sample that you would get is the 2019 summer plays. But you're only getting what I talk about here, and you're only going to get what I talk about, and then you can get all of Act 1 of In Store, which is a 2-act. They're all 3 of them are 2 acts. I think Rushin Better Fly is a 3-act. Yes, Rushin Better Fly is a 3-act. The Hidden Drive is a 2-act, I believe. Pretty sure Hidden Drive's a 2-act. And it could be a 3-act, but I'm pretty sure it's a 2-act. And then the third one is In Store. You'll get just a sample of that Act 1 in here. All right, so if you want to request it, you'd have to pay. So I'd send it to you, but there'd be probably a processing fee, even if I send it through email. Because it takes me time to dig them up and then send them to you, even though I have them on a cloud. So, but depending on who you are, really, and depending on if you're serious, then I would send them to you. Because I'm still writing I'm finalizing and Those are 2 other plays. The more kind of like absurdist plays, I guess. Their characters are set in limbo, especially they're set in limbo in a townhouse that was built in 1969, but the play takes place current day. Well, about a year ago, I guess you could say, roughly a year ago. The time isn't that important on that one. That one is about a crazy writer that calls himself a time-traveling Nazi and has to live with this alcoholic lady during the time of COVID. So I guess it's the tail end of COVID. One of them coughs, the other one coughs a little bit more. I think the writer coughs and the other one coughs a little more. She's a smoker and drinker and things like that. Okay, so still doing that, still doing plays. I went ahead and switched over to prose, so I am writing. And I did send it up last night. If you go to my Facebook, Rib chapter 30 is up. I said I was going to talk more about Snowman, but I switched over back to the previous character of Shep. His name is Shep Dwight East, and he is pretty much like an ex-cop. He's a police officer on administrative leave, and he has a dog with him, a German Shepherd, and his Ford Interceptor. So he big time just leaves. He gets put on administration leave. We don't know why. He goes to Alaska. And while, you know, Alaska's happening, because you're already introduced to Alaska earlier with the Snowman, which is he's kind of like a bum hitman in training, okay, in the snow, being trained by a dwarf named, you guessed it, I guess I'm just calling him the dwarf. But he has many nicknames, like the little man, the midget, the dwarf. Doc Shelby. Yes, Doc Shelby is his official user name, or his, you know, they all have code names. And his friend is Jed Wilson. Jed Wilson. Jed is also known as the Snowman. And it's kind of poetic espionage stuff I've been writing since The Untitled. If you haven't read The Untitled, that's on Fiction Press. So you can be a big reader. You're probably going to find a lot of spelling errors and syntax stuff. I'm sorry. I posted that stuff up really quick. I do check my work now. Back then, I didn't really check my work that much. I just posted it and left it alone. Major spelling errors like crazy. That was all from The Untitled, and that was the book about poetic espionage in Los Angeles and Hollywood. It's the one where it warps around in different characters. The characters like warp and stuff. All right, so this one's more grounded in reality. So Doc Shelby the dwarf does find his armies and stuff like that on the street. And he finds them a lot of times behind 7-Elevens because he likes to go to 7-Eleven and stuff. And he's this once delivery driver, little person, a dwarf, that comes across a lot of money. We're talking a lot of money. He doesn't find it, but he gets it. You find out later on how he gets his money. He's very, very rich. And so he decides to revolt, basically, against his own country. It's kind of the story of Cassius, maybe a little bit of Brutus, you know, maybe a little of Judas Iscariot, maybe a little bit too. He's very evil, let's just put it that way. And he's mean. And he kind of talks like Thomas Harris in Silence of the Lambs. When he talks like this, the real writer guy, he talks like, talk to Gary Oldman. All right, 2.17 minutes. We'll be there at 6:12. All right, so the phone that I had, the smartphone, I'll go through all my smartphones. Just give me a second. Because A Cat Named Crook is about smartphone. It's about smartphone thief. Well, kind of about a smartphone thief. Well, one that refurbishes smartphones. Okay, the first one I ever got was an HTC Merge. I got it because Gary Oldman was selling the HTC One back in around 2011, 2012-ish. Especially around 2012-ish. We're talking about right before 2012 when the Mayan calendar was supposed to end the world, right? We thought the world would end in 2012. The Mayan calendar said so. So I went to Maine to live in a cabin. My mom lived in a zip code over with my stepdad. I decided before to leave to go and switch from T-Mobile, which I was with T-Mobile because I got great deals with T-Mobile. I had a little flip cell phone I kept in my glove box. It was a little slider. Thing never ran out of battery. I could keep the battery on that for a week. And I could make phone calls I could get the prepaid cards at Walmart, you know, and just make phone calls and things like that. I had that phone for a long time. But my first, very, very, very first cell phone was purchased out in Hollywood, right there in smack of Hollywood. It was a standard Nokia. It had the antenna at the end, and that was it. And it was just like a base phone with a little antenna. That's the one that the undercover cop called me and wanted me, well, he basically found out I was working for the Police and Sheriff Support Fund in Long Beach, which was really operated out in Los Angeles, which was basically annuals that you could put your information or business card in to advertise, and they didn't like that kind of stuff. Anyway, that was the first one I had. The second one was the little T-Mobile flip phone that my first wife gave me. And then I guess the first smartphone was around, we're going to see some go-karts in a minute, 2012. It was an HTC Merge. I wanted the HTC Merge because it had a slider type. Okay, so it had a keyboard, a QWERTY board that would slide, and you could type on it like you would a typewriter. And then I knew I was going to write a book. So I went to Maine. I lived there for 17 months. I worked for 15 months, about 15 months. And I got tinnitus in my right ear really badly. Badly. Pretty bad tinnitus. Constant ringing. Some call it tinnitus. And I worked in a wood factory called Hardwood Products that I changed in all my stories. I call it Havenwood. It's called Hardwood. It's in Guilford. It's still there today. They do all the corn dog sticks for the state fair. Anyway, I had that HTC Merge. I dropped it in water one time. It turned everything blue. Like all the photos were blue. Everyone's always asking me, why are your Maine photos, when you were in Maine, why is it blue? Because I dropped that puppy in water and I had to put in a rice bag. Well, I lived in several different places. I moved in Parkman, right down the road from Bert Shavitz, the owner or the creator of Burt Bees. He was still alive then. He's passed away. He was working with Isabel Rossellini on a project called Bert's Buzz, which was on Netflix for a little while. You can get it on Amazon now. It's a documentary about Bert. I wrote a song about Bert too, but I changed the spelling of his name. Okay, so I had that HTC Merge, and I took photos of Maine. I also had a video camera, which was a Sony video camera. Blah, 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 short story short, blah, blah, all the way to the next phone that I had. Came back to Texas. The book was just in a computer. It was in a tower, a Dell. I still continued working on the book and met a lady named Angel. Angel decided to marry me and give me 3 children. Now, during that process, I got rid of the HTC Merge and switched over to the Mini. The Mini is a Motorola product. And we had that coming out of Boston. We went to Boston for our honeymoon. When we got back, my phone was possessed. It was just working on its own. So the Mini I got, and I liked it. It was good. It was a reliable phone. It was a Motorola. Well, I had that smartphone for about maybe a year and a half or 2 years. And I finally decided to go with Samsung. About 2 years later, Samsung 7. Then finally, after the third kid, or actually right before the third, well, around, yeah, the third kid, because I had 3 of them. I didn't birth them, but I was there for all 3. Gwendolyn finally came, and then we had the Samsung 8. We basically had the Samsung 8 before that, so all the photos, that was a valuable phone to me. During the divorce, my wife factory reset this S7, so it's completely factory reset. The S8, here's my 2 theories. Verizon said it was a battery swelling. I woke up one night, it was on the floor. I left the GPS on. What if a satellite came over, a Russian satellite, to protect Ella, zapped it, and caused the battery swell, causing the battery to swell, disabling the phone, and knocking it off. You know, the glass is fine on it. So it probably can be rebuilt, is what I'm thinking. I still have it. I have all my smartphones. So that one has Ella's information. On the text, it has the Western Union that I sent to her, I believe maybe either to Moscow or Minsk. So there was an address to that Western Union. Her name is impossible to remember, but it's on notes and it's on the text. Through the Western Union would have it connected to me, so they would have a trace of it. Western Union, I used to work for a bank for 4 years. They keep all that stuff on log because most of the scams happen through Western Union. Many scams happen. You don't ever want to send money through Western Union unless you've actually met the person. And she was not the only person that scammed me. There was also a lady out of Ohio that got a hold of bank account information. And my wife, my wife was gone at the time. And then way later on, my mother got hacked with her Apple Mac because of Foxfire. And they got control of it and tried to take money out of one account and put it into another account. But she always slammed the thing shut, you know. She disabled the call because they were able to go in as like a technician and pretend. They had a foreign accent, so I told Mom to call the FBI because it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal. It's nearly bank robbery, you know, whenever they go in through your computer and try to get everything. Anyway, that S8, that Samsung 8, it has to be repaired. It has to be probably refurbished with a new battery. It can be saved. It's not. There's no major internal damage other than the battery. I had Verizon look at it. Not poker. I can't be on my run. Actors are not really throwaway items. You know, they're people, you know. Playwrights are definitely not throwaway. They still do Christopher Wren. They will still do Neil Simon. They'll do Sam Shepard. They still do Shakespeare. Now, how many actors do you remember from Shakespeare's time? You remember Kemp, who was the clown. And you can kind of recall one of their first, like, major actors they used. Probably he played Hamlet. He probably played a few of the kings. But you don't remember all the actors from Shakespeare's time. You don't remember them. You know why? because nobody knows who they are. They do have record of a lot of them. Okay, just like they have records of the tens and thousands of actors that have been Hollywood movie stars. The playwrights are remembered because the word will outlast the heavens and earth. The word will outlast the movies. So the playwrights, like you remember Sam Shepard. Is that a playwright? Okay, Neil Simon. You remember Neil Simon. You remember Tennessee Williams. You remember Orson Welles, who was kind of a writer. He was more of a filmmaker. You do remember the filmmakers. Actors are hard to remember. Now, we do know Robert Redford, Dustin Hoffman, Robert De Niro, Marlon Brando, Robert Duvall, James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, Rainn Wilson, Bradley Cooper. We'll remember them for a while, but some of those names I mentioned you won't remember for a long time. But we will remember Sam Shepard for a long time, just like we will remember William Shakespeare. Shakespeare will probably outlast a lot of them. But there's thousands of playwrights. They're like, what? Have you ever heard of, is it his name? I don't even, TJ Barry or something? He had done work here at Stage West. He did Jump the Train at River Point. He was a Samuel French published playwright, but nobody knows who he is. But he had done work here. I was going to be in his world premiere, but I had gotten in trouble and left and did something else. I was going to play one of the lead characters, the twin characters in Jump the Train at River Point. TJ Barry or something like that. I can't even remember his name. But you can remember the big name playwrights or whatever playwrights are personal to you, like Samuel Beckett, you know, Waiting for Godot. We remember those things. Playwrights are memorable. They're memorable. You remember them. And sometimes even the actors want their autographs. You know what I mean? Like Annie Baker, if I met her, I'd want her autograph. I'd probably get her mixed up with Pam on The Office, which I can't even recall her name as an actress.